That smoking guy emoji always cracks me up.
It's literally my favorite of anyone. Uh, yeah, Matthew Smoke, 100%.
You have a couple favorites. The dancing unicorn, Matthew Smoke. Oh, your recent favorite one's like that sticker with people shaking your hands, but
Well, yes, the Zai
right.
stickers are pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Pretty fantastic. That's how I knew I'd fit in with that team.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. I think we can start. Ahem, ahem. Good evening and good morning, Unicorn fam. How is 3.1 treating you? Boy, we got a super packed day for you today. First, we'll have CEO and co-founder Aaron Beierschmitt answering questions at the town hall, and after, we'll have Zyori and Jeff to demonstrate the new jousting tool at Univu. Let's have at it. Good morning, Aaron. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you as always for the wonderful intro, Sparkly. Okay, two topics for me before we dive into questions. One, just a couple of notes on upcoming releases, and then several very critical kind of governance proposals that we've been working on, especially in the context of the Xi migration. So as far as upcoming releases, today we're going to have a tuning push. It's a quick follow-up patch to the release from last week. It'll include bulk crafting recipes. It will include increased exchange quest bundle size and, of course, corresponding cost. We'll also have increased collection input-output. Ultimately, it's a series of quick changes that we can make to rebalance the work to reward ratio within the game, and especially in the context of now tribe contribution. So I'm anxious to get this out the door for people who are on the leaderboard grind. We kind of had a crazy weekend with just the Xi token kind of going on a run, and the value of our leaderboards actually, our leaderboard reward actually going up, 20+%, which was kind of crazy. That's a new thing that we now kind of have in our tool box. I have not had enough coffee yet. It's a new tool in our toolbox, which just includes the opportunity to give out tokens that are not necessarily our ecosystem tokens and leverage those as rewards. So it is very interesting and again, I think a really exciting thing that we've never had before. Roughly 2 weeks from now, we'll have another quick patch. It's just going to follow up with a few bug fixes coming off the back of the 3.1 release. Hopefully, some investigations conclude and are able to apply a couple of patches to that build. And then after that, we have one final release prior to the Xi migration. That will be the 3.2 release. The entire crux of the 3.2 release is quality of life and polish improvements, as well as tech debt cleanup. Again, this is the last release prior to the Xi migration, and it gives us, I think, an opportunity to really focus on putting our absolute best foot forward as we look towards the Xi migration. It will include things like, dare I say, unicorn auto assign, a very updated collections UI to make that feature actually feel like collections. We obviously tested it inside of an existing UI that we had, so that was extremely exciting. To just be able to get something out very quickly and validate that system, but obviously it's not a traditional collections UI, and so we're going to be kind of putting that in place. And there's going to be a lot more in that release. Again, very much targeting quality of life, polish, and tech debt. In particular, the prioritization of tech debt that affects player experience, which we can get into more specifics on that front. So that is the cadence. We have a tuning fix today. We have a hot fix in a couple of weeks. And then we'll have the 3.2 release, which will be the final release prior to the Xi migration itself. There will, of course, be a Xi-specific release that will go out as we're doing the migration itself. That's going to remove all the confirmation pop-ups and all the things that we'll no longer have to worry about once we've completed the transition from Polygon to Xi. Again, we're moving to a network that is extremely fast, that does not have reorgs. And so we can pull out a lot of the "Are you sure?" pop-ups, and again, these waiting for 30 confirmation pop-ups. These things will no longer, exist. We'll also be integrating fully the Third Web kind of product suite, which will include account abstracted wallets, which will be a very exciting feature, and happy to kind of get into more detail on that front. But the TLDR is if you choose to leverage a Third Web smart wallet, you will not only have free gas, you're also going to have the opportunity to not actually get a MetaMask prompt every single time you need a blockchain transaction, because the Third Web smart wallet will actually sign those transactions for you. Fear not, if you're not interested in the transferring assets to a Third Web wallet. All EOA wallets will still have free gas, as we've discussed. But Third Web and the deep kind of integration that we're planning with that team, which is also a launch partner for Zy, gives us this really incredible opportunity to kind of remove not only onboarding friction, because you can sign up with email, you can sign up with a social login, spin up a wallet that is non-custodial. And again, it's a smart wallet, and it will sign transactions for you. So there's some really, really cool shit happening under the hood that I'm excited to talk more about today and in upcoming town halls. You're going to see us continue to kind of reveal a major piece that we've been planning, in some cases for months prior to announcing these things. As I mentioned before, in the Zy migration kind of town hall, that we've kind of just scratched the surface of what we've been working on for quite some time, and are very focused on landing and putting together all the pieces necessary to ensure we maximize the success that we have on the other side of the Zy migration. Just getting to Zy and getting the migration done is just the first step. We need to see and hope to see something that looks a lot like Pixels to Ronin, right? Which I think right now, in addition to that and Heroes of Marvia, kind of are the two standout GameFi projects in the space. So again, that's the release cadence in the lead up to migration. Happy to discuss any details on that front, and I know we've got some Anon questions around specifics. All right, everybody, deep breath. We have two major governance proposals coming forward. They'll be put before the council here before the end of the month, with the idea that they either get pushed to snapshot or not by March 1st. I do say I think these are the two most important governance votes to ever come forward. So ironically enough, a completely community-led council has been put in quite the powerful position, and I'm certainly happy to have this season of councilors in particular being faced with these two proposals that I'm going to bring forward. So deep breath, listen closely, folks, and then happy to answer questions after. One, the first proposal is something I've been discussing with the Zy team very deeply. The TLDR is, we believe it is an opportune moment to execute what we call a token conversion as a part of this migration from the Polygon to the Arbitrum ecosystem. And again, this comes from a position of how do we absolutely maximize this moment. And in some ways, it's not enough in our eyes to just move a token from Polygon to Arbitrum. We need to convert that token as a result of this. What does this mean technically? Well, there'll be two changes. One will be a name change from Rainbow to Crypto Unicorns, RBW to CU. There will also be a conversion ratio of 10 to 1. For example, 100 RBW will convert to 10 CU tokens. This conversion is actually going to occur automatically as a result of the migration. We are going to have a website called the Rainbow Bridge, which I believe is rather fitting. As you cross the Rainbow Bridge, your RBW will convert to CU tokens, which will be, of course, a new contract on Arbitrum. Again, this gives us several benefits, and I'm happy to get in the weeds with anyone who has direct questions during this town hall or after. But the key opportunity here is obviously a fresh name and a new chart prior to our large liquidity bootstrapping event that we plan to run as a part of the token migration itself. I think it's imperative that we expose our token in the best way possible to the enormous amount of liquidity that exists on Arbitrum, And this represents a really good opportunity to do that. Have a massive kind of coming out party with our new DEX partner, Camelot, which we're actively discussing how to maximize that with them and the Xi team. And the Xi team believes that this also will help us get some of the same listings that they have. As you can imagine, the Xi token has done incredibly well. And as a result of that, I plan to leverage the lessons that they have learned and the partnerships that they have already established to help ensure the CU token um, is again presented to this new audience in the best way possible. So that is proposal number one that will be coming forward to the DAO for vote. It is again a request to convert RBW to a new token called the Crypto Unicorns token, RBW to CU. So happy to answer more questions on that. There's certainly some nuance to it, but technically it's incredibly feasible. Our team has actually already built this bridge via Layer 0, which is a launch partner of Xi and a major cross-chain messaging protocol. So again, it's not a custom bridge that we've written. It's leveraging already battle-tested Layer 0 tech to facilitate this and make it happen. That is proposal number one. I think it's a pretty easy yes vote, but again, open to discussion and debate, and ultimately the council's in a very powerful position here of do they pass it to Snapshot or not. Proposal number two, this one's a little more controversial. I'm putting it forward for discussion, quite frankly, and I wouldn't say I'm 100% on the side of this must happen. I'm putting it forward more from the perspective of, again, trying to think of every possible idea I can to maximize the Xi migration. And one of the key things that we lack as a project today is liquidity. I don't think anyone can deny that, right? Liquidity is the lifeblood of any project, and it is absolutely critical that with this migration, we, bootstrap liquidity and inject liquidity into our economy. So the second proposal will include a request to shift additional staking rewards towards liquidity providers instead of single-side stakers. So effectively, those who stake CULP tokens, which will be Crypto Unicorns tokens and Wrapped ETH on Camelot on Arbitrum, will earn increased RBW rewards, Xi, Arbitrum tokens, and Grail tokens, which is the Camelot DEX governance token. Again, I think everyone's priority here should be bootstrapping liquidity for our project. And I believe some tweaks to our staking reward structure will help accelerate this, especially in the eyes of new participants who want to buy into our ecosystem and earn. And it's a phenomenal way to leverage tokens that are not necessarily our governance token to drive the reward structure there and the incentive alignment on that front. Lastly, on this proposal, we're also going to allow the staked LP tokens to vote on governance proposals. People should not have to choose between providing liquidity for our ecosystem and voting. I'm even open to potentially weighting the votes of LP tokens higher. And this is where I want to embrace community feedback on this second proposal and get an open dialogue again going around how do we maximize this moment and what are the ways that that we can all collectively leverage to ensure the success of this system. The last thing that I'll say on the shift of rewards towards CU liquidity providers is going to be the idea that right now we the Treasury, provides roughly 1 million in protocol-owned liquidity, right? Which of course will get migrated to the Arbitrum ecosystem with everything that we're kind of discussing here. But that means that right now we're 98, maybe even 99% of the liquidity for the project. Over time, we certainly hope that goes as low as 50 or 40 or 30% if we're enormously successful with kind of this liquidity bootstrapping program. But the key point here is our liquidity will earn Grail and ARB tokens naturally as a part of the Camelot DEX incentive. I'm going to claim those rewards into the treasury and distribute those rewards to the reward contract where I'm not staking the LP. So it will boost the rewards for everyone outside of the treasury protocol-owned liquidity providers. Um, it will increase the APY on the ARB and the Grail front. Then I'm going to add the Xi rewards that are coming out of our 8-figure Xi grant, and I'm going to add, obviously, again, the Arbitrum and Grail that the protocol-owned liquidity is earning. So it's going to kind of maximize the reward and the incentive on that front, aligned directly with what every single person here should care about, which is maximally scaling the liquidity of this project. The more we can show that level of traction, the easier it will be to get the next 3 exchanges, KuCoin, Bybit, and of course, the big B, Binance. So again, these proposals are coming forward. We need to try to vote on them at the latest mid-March, so we do have time, particularly if one needs a few extra cycles based on community feedback and things of that nature. But again, we're approaching an ecosystem in Arbitrum that is very, very DeFi focused. I think, for anyone sitting here going, I didn't really get a lot of that, again, I can answer questions today, and certainly am open to answering questions, of course, in Discord, over the next few weeks. But you have to understand, we're entering an ecosystem that is first and foremost DeFi degens and is trying to scale the GameFi side. We're bringing one of the most prominent GameFi projects in the space over. And again, I think we want hooks and things that appeal to that Arbitrum DeFi audience, which has propelled Arbitrum to being the largest layer 2 in terms of ETH bridged. So again, that's the reasoning and some of the why behind this proposal. And the goal that we kind of have set of working step by step with the Xi team to ensure that obviously the very first game launching on their network with a liquid token, the CU token, is getting the same exposure that the Xi project has seen to date. That's one thing that drives me crazy, is I kind of think, Xi at 300 plus, almost 350, $300 million market cap relative to ours. And it's like, all right, I do expect there is some level of repricing that could potentially occur as we go about this, if we do it in the right way with the right steps. All right, Sparkly, I know I've burned some people's brains. That's it for my major updates today. I'd love to get the questions, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. A lot of the community is pretty excited, to say the least. Uh, from their chat, yeah, chat is pretty hyped right now. So thank you so much, Aaron, for the news. That is a lot to take in, and I'm sure that everybody has a lot of questions. But let's run by the rules really quickly. So we don't have a limit to the number of questions this time. If you have questions, ask away. We'd love to answer. We're also a bit more lenient on the usual 1 hour time limit for town hall, and we'll keep answering questions as much as we can. But any questions related specifically to your account or a Zendesk issue is best addressed on the mod support channel, so the CM team can take care of that for you. So to ask a question in the town hall from voice, press the request to speak button. It looks like a raised hand, and you can queue up at any time. Once you accept your request, you'll see a green bar at the top of your Discord. Click accept to begin speaking. We also have written questions. It's on the town hall thread in the feedback channel. Take note that we prioritize spoken questions over written ones, and you can also head on stage and ask any question that you might find there. But first up, though, are the anonymous questions. We have a lot today. Let's begin. Okay, anonymous person number 1 is asking, my friend has a question. Will we have a token on sidechain and use it to play CU? This has been answered. And have another bridge token live on ARB. This has been answered.
Well, it's good to kind of discuss the nuance just to make sure, and
Yes.
for people who are a little late. So I'm proposing that we do a token conversion. We'll see what the DAO votes. If that goes through, the mechanics are going to be very simple. There is a Rainbow Bridge website that players can navigate to. You will send your RBW into the Rainbow Bridge, and it will come out the other side on Arbitrum as the Crypto Unicorns token at a 10-to-1 ratio. 100 RBW will equal 10 Crypto Unicorns tokens on the other side. The back end of that bridge is the Layer 0 protocol, which again is a very battle-tested protocol for cross-chain messaging. The Rainbow Bridge will also allow you to send your unicorn milk directly to Zai. The reasoning behind that is we're going to keep unicorn milk liquidity on the Camelot DEX on Zai. I don't see any reason to have that on Arbitrum. For the CU token, assuming that conversion proposal passes, there's a real reason to keep our token on dexes that are on Arbitrum and much closer, obviously, to the insane amount of liquidity that exists in that ecosystem. It will mean that you need to bridge from Arbitrum to Zai. That's obviously a very cheap, cost-effective bridge, and the other way is even cheaper, and I believe will be free because of the gas relayer on Zai. So it gives us kind of the best of both worlds. All the gameplay logic, the marketplace, all the NFTs are going directly to Zai, super fast, cheap, secure. And then we want the RBW to CU token on Arbitrum to obviously be where the liquidity is and where the rewards and incentives are for providing liquidity. Arbitrum has done such a great job of incentivizing project liquidity on their network between the ARB token and obviously with Camelot and the Grail token. We've got a really cool opportunity there to do that. And anyway, so those are the mechanics of the bridge. It is going to be very simple. It'll be 2 transactions, one for Unicorn Milk to Zai, one for RBW to Arbitrum, and then assuming the token conversion proposal passes here in the coming weeks. On the other side of that bridge, you will automatically receive Crypto Unicorns tokens into your EOA account on Arbitrum.
All right. We have a follow-up question from somebody in chat. So the max supply for CU will be 100 million instead of 1 million RBW now.
The max supply for RBW or for the CU token will be 100 million, yes. Whereas RBW's max supply was 1 billion. If people want to know the real of me sitting and writing the white paper now over 2.5 years ago, I looked at the time at Illuvium and Axie, and I just kind of said, well, in some ways, those tokens in that bull market were incredibly expensive per unit. And I thought, well, let's double their, Axie's supply. And our token will quote unquote be perceived as slightly cheaper, and you could get to a whole coin, right? Especially during the bull market, it becomes this obsession. I want a whole Bitcoin. That's a goal, right? Unit bias cuts both ways, and I just don't see any reason to leave our token down by, if you're comparing it to US dollars, a penny or 2 pennies or 3 pennies. And so it's an opportunity to do that. Obviously, if you have 1% of the supply today, you're going to have 1% of the supply again. There's no shift in value. There's no one getting a better deal on the other side of that. All the investor and team tokens will continue to have the same locks and unlock schedule. And so there's no changes there beyond literally changing the name of the token, moving to this new contract on Arbitrum, and doing the conversion ratio. So I hope that's clear for people. But yeah, good question to ask and clarify.
All right. So that's it for our first anonymous asker. Next up, we have something that's been addressed, but yeah, it might be good to summarize it for people who just came in. What tokens will we be using for playing on sidechain if we migrate RBW and Unim to Arbitrum? Because side to Arbitrum needs 7 days to bridge tokens.
They're thinking about that the wrong way. Your bridge up to Arbitrum and from Arbitrum to Zai does not involve a 7-day delay. Your bridge from Arbitrum to ETH mainnet does involve a 7-day delay if you use the native bridge. You can use one of the cross-chain messaging bridges. You could use the HOP, for example, the HOP protocol, which is a liquidity bridge, and those transfers are instantaneous. So I do not believe there is even a 7-day delay from Xi to Arbitrum. That 7-day delay is a part of an optimistic rollup, and Arbitrum actually having fraud proofs. So you could submit a fraud proof during that 7-day period to attest to fraud, which could get validated on Ethereum mainnet. So I think there's a little bit of confusion on that front. I can promise you going up, it's instantaneous, or within 10 minutes or something. It's certainly a lot faster than the Polygon bridge, I can tell you. And then going down again, I don't believe there's a delay from Xi to Arbitrum, and then from Arbitrum to ETH mainnet, yes, if you use the native bridge, there's a 7-day delay. Again, you could use Hot Protocol, you could use one of the cross-chain messaging protocols like Wormhole, and you could make that transition or that transfer instantaneously. So definitely something to clarify there. There is not a 7-day delay going from Arbitrum to Xi. You'll be able to instantly bridge up.
Okay, hype. Not 7 days, chat. Not 7 days. That's I'm pretty sure that is a relief to a lot of people who were mistaken, especially our anonymous asker. Let's have another anonymous question. First, Sparkly is awesome. Thank you. You're awesome. You're awesome, anonymous person. In the last town hall, there was a mention of top 3 market makers being on board. What's the status of that and any top exchange listing?
We have DWF as a market maker today. We work with CLS as well, Coin Liquidity Services, and we just got a proposal from GSR, which GSR is a very big, very reputable market maker. So
Wow.
anyway, yes, we're kind
I'm
of
gonna
at
be
the table with all those groups. It's another perfect example of the Xi team introduced us to GSR and we got right in the door. So that's a thing. I'm making no promises in terms of exchange listings. I have very little control over that, but Xi has already proven to be an incredibly helpful partner in getting us directly in the door to talk to the right people. And I never experienced that before with kind of our prior partner. And I've just been amazed at how quickly the Xi team has been able to help us here. And the thing that I love about this partnership is there is this direct alignment here with Xi, right? They need to prove that games migrating to them can see success on the other side. We have such a razor sharp alignment in terms of incentives, right? Like everyone who's a Xi node holder today is holding Xi tokens is taking a bet that games will be successful on that protocol. They have every reason and incentive as kind of the publisher in this relationship, right? To be able to help us, right? We are very aligned that we want a pixel styles narrative in our own way, in our own fashion, but a pixel style narrative post this migration. And so I every time I talk with Toby and Sobi and the rest of the team that I'm starting to meet, I get more and more excited around that. And again, it's I give them credit for coming forward and saying you guys should really consider a token conversion, right? You need to be thinking about how you maximize this moment, how you expose your project for the first time to this new set of eyeballs, this new set of liquidity, and kind of go from there. And the last thing that I'd say, just kind of as a really cool thing, is like the Xi chain itself is built by Off-Chain Labs. Off-Chain Labs, of course, builds Arbitrum, right? Like we have our blockchain team has literally been getting direct responses from Off-Chain Labs CTO. It's really incredible the level at which Arbitrum does directly support projects and help. And again, we just haven't seen this in the past, and it really speaks to how focused they are on making Arbitrum a dominant kind of gaming ecosystem via obviously Treasure DAO and Xi and all the Arbitrum Orbit application specific gaming chains that are coming up. So
God, I had to mute myself because I started shrieking. Oh my god. Okay, wait. I'm gonna shriek when I mute. All right. When can we expect a full deploy on Xi? Any perks for RBW/NFT holders on Xi? Do we get an airdrop like Pixel did?
there will be a play to airdrop campaign. I don't have more details to reveal on that front, but it is something I'm working very closely with the Xi team on. Obviously, Xi being a part of leaderboard rewards will be a permanent and ongoing thing. Over time, we hope to add things like Arbitrum, ARBS token, ARB, as well as Grail. and potentially other tokens. So there's going to be NFT airdrops and things to Zai node holders to get them, pumped about our ecosystem as it's launching, and kind of the inverse of that, which will be kind of this play to airdrop campaign, which I'm working very directly with the Zai team to actually learn from their own lessons in doing an incentivized testnet campaign, which drove such um, heavy network activity on their testnet, both kind of proving out that the tech worked at scale, as well as exposing a lot of people to what Zai is all about. And that very much, of course, translated to a hyper successful Zai node cell. So again, we're working with a partner in Zai that you can think of like a publisher, a game publisher, and continue to work very close with them to try to maximize that moment. As far as timelines are concerned, all I'll say is the next town hall I am on, you will have a more definitive timeline and the sequence of events that we plan to have, which will actually start with the RBW to CU conversion, assuming it gets voted through. There'll be a liquidity bootstrapping event and likely kind of a leaderboard associated with that, very much trying to expose ourselves to the Arbitrum ecosystem in a way that's very exciting and gets people pumped about our ecosystem's kind of somewhat imminent migration over to the platform. And then, of course, there'll be the migration itself of the core game. Unicorn Party doesn't really need to migrate. It'll actually already be supporting Zion Arbitrum for crypto wagering, which, by the way, Unicorn Party got approved by Apple. No hidden tricks. Their review team reviewed and approved the crypto wagering component. We believe we are the first application on iOS to be allowed by Apple to let people actually wager crypto tokens on these skill-based games. So there's something kind of insane about that. And anyway, we can go into that more. But again, making the point, core game team will migrate, and then obviously Rainbow Rumble will follow the core game team. So lots of exciting things and timeline details to come the next time I'm on Town Hall.
You really just drop it. You really just drop that out there. No big deal. Oh, by the way, we got approved by Apple. No big deal. Wow.
Yeah, it's not about the application even, right? It's the fact that they approved crypto token wagering. I don't think anyone
Absolutely.
else has done that yet. There's a
Yeah,
few
I'm
people
seeing
that
no
have kind of
headlines
faked
about
it.
that.
Yeah. So anyway, it's going to
Wild.
be cool to see as we start to scale those applications. We've seen how Heroes of Marvia, a class of trash kind of clone game, can go, hey, we got 2 million downloads and tell you nothing about the retention, the monetization, or the engagement of those downloads, but their token is doing fucking great, right? So again, maybe it took me 2 years to learn. It's way more about how you message than what you actually deliver. And what happens if a project actually messages and delivers? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to find out.
We're about to find out, chat. Speaking of that, the last question for this anonymous person is, what
Yep.
is our marketing strategy and what are we doing to get the word out there and more eyes on us?
I mean, you can already see this, right? Every time Zai tweets about us, right? We gain 4 or 5K followers on crypto Twitter. We've seen some of the largest influencers in the space, like Seed Phrase, already give us a shout out. Again, we're already there. There's no reason right now in this very moment to be pulling on all those channels and going big until we're literally at the a moment that matters, the token conversion moment, the liquidity bootstrap pool and leaderboard moment, the actual migration itself moment, the relaunch of Rainbow Rumble. And so you can imagine, we'll be planning to roll out not only just influencer marketing around these events with the support of the Zai team and their pretty enormous network of top tier influencers within the space, but you can also expect cross promotion across some of our partners, right? With Rainbow Rumble, it'll be Hyperplay and their launcher product coming out of the Game 7 ecosystem. Obviously, we'll be doing the Play to Airdrop campaign and the marketing around that. And We've been following very closely. I think Pixels is kind of running a masterclass in taking some of the mistakes that Sky Mavis made with the original Axie Classic kind of run up and has tweaked many of the things that they got wrong in a way that, I think is going to work. It's clearly a replacement for Homeland in my mind. They're certainly trying to get it to be that. But they've done a phenomenal job. I mean, and so there's a lot to learn from how they have gone about marketing not only their migration, but their play to airdrop campaign, which of course has been incredibly successful for them.
All right. That's the last question for this anonymous person. Let's get another Anon on board. Can you ask Aaron to talk about RPCs and nodes in Xi? Looking at Xi, I see they only have one RPC. Will there be more in the future? I think this stems from the RPC troubles we're getting from Polygon.
Yeah, those are actively under investigation. The client team recognizes that they have not modified that code since we launched the game. And again, now is the time to focus on resolving these issues to the extent that we can. So those specific issues of the client hammering the RPCs is under active investigation by the team. Separate of that, we have the question around, who are the RPC providers? Well, as you can imagine, the Xi team, I actually asked the Xi team this 2 weeks ago. They're talking to Alchemy, they're talking to Anchor. You're going to expect to see support from the major RPCs on that front over the next few months. I think one of the interesting things is Xi really is just an Arbitrum orbit chain. So you kind of have this twofold thing where the Xi team is going out, having these conversations, getting these partnerships set up. And you also have the off-chain labs team, which is going out there and going to RPC providers and saying, hey, it's our vision to have this massive ecosystem of Arbitrum orbit chains on top of obviously Arbitrum One. We have Arbitrum Nova, and so they're going out and trying to get kind of these enterprise-wide deals with these providers. So I can't say with certainty any one specific provider at this moment, but you can expect the major RPC providers to have offerings on that front. So that's one side of that. And then yes, we are actively investigating. Massive shout out to the one and only Venticello, who pointed out a few things that we could be doing differently. We're actively investigating that now, and we'll have more feedback for the team around for the community around when they can expect updates on that front.
All right. Another question that they have. Will our code change to less than 40 calls per second, or will the Xi RPC be able to natively handle more than 40 calls?
That's what I'm saying is being investigated.
Hmm.
My CTO is here. He's going, don't commit to anything. I can see it's super early for him. He's probably half a monster deep. And I'll just say we are actively investigating it. Venticello pointed out several things we could be doing differently. And again, it's an opportunity for the client team to take a look at code that has built up tech debt since we launched almost 2 years ago. And we are looking to optimize it as much as we possibly can. There's also just ongoing things. We are building we need an indexer to do this migration, right? And that is being built. There's opportunities to say, hey, maybe we leverage that as a way to remove the need for the client to watch the chain at all. These are all actively ongoing R&D projects, and the team is very focused on them. So yes, the intent would be to reduce the number of calls the client is making to ensure public RPC endpoints are not getting rate limited. I hope that answers the question. I understand the pain. We see it too with not seeing some of your assets and things of that nature, right? So again, give us a moment to look at code. That's kind of why I was saying the 3.2 release, which is the last release before we actually pull the trigger on migration. There will be, of course, some downtime as a result of that. Anyway, in the lead up to that, the 3.2 release you can expect to be very quality of life, polish focused, and cleanup of tech debt, very specifically tech debt that affects player experience. And I would say some of these issues are a very good example of tech debt that is, clearly causing player issues. I've certainly seen Forza, who I appreciate is here in the town hall live, having some issues with this. So again, try to stay patient with the team, try to pass forward relevant information. It helps us. Again, I can't shout out Venticello enough for his help in, pointing out areas that we could be doing better. So looking to embrace any and all feedback. And again, we have this mentality inside of the team right now, which is like we have this one major release before we do the actual migration itself. It is time to set us up for success and do everything we possibly can to improve the experience for players kind of across the board. So I'm really happy that we're kind of taking this moment, taking a beat to really stay focused on I think the things that matter in terms of what new players from the Xi and Arbitrum side are really going to care about. So between the third web stuff I mentioned, between quality of life improvements that we plan to make, as well as tech debt kind of performance related stuff, I think it's going to be a really great release right before migration.
Yeah, I'm very hyped for it too. So our Anon finishes their question with, I am looking forward to migrate, like really, really excited. I can really feel their excitement all the way from here. Let's have another question. Somebody's asking to please share the timeline for Xi migration. We do not do dates. How do you explain CU being one of the few projects that's not benefiting from the mini build that's happening right now? What are your takeaways from this, and how do you plan to change this?
I think about this a lot. How much of it is being on, the majority of our liquidity exists on a DEX called Balancer and Polygon, right? That is where our liquidity for our token exists, and we don't have some of the key centralized exchanges that are leading the bull. If you look at some of the GameFi tokens that have been doing very well, and you actually look at the markets that their token is traded on, and you sort those markets by volume, you're going to notice it's Binance, it's Bybit, it's KuCoin, it's Gate.io. It's these exchanges that we have not yet gotten on. So I do believe it is a combination of not exposing our token to where current buyers are. That's a big part of some of the reasoning behind why I want and am advocating for the token conversion as a part of this migration, and then kicking off this big liquidity bootstrapping event where we're piling on incentives and rewards to really try to align or pointed at liquidity providers, right? People who are going to take CU tokens, pair them with wrap teeth, put them in the pool, and then lock those tokens up. That is what we want to try to incentivize and bootstrap there. I will say in the past, I have tried several liquidity scaling events, and quite frankly, they were either mistimed with inflationary events inside of the game. I mean, that's the beauty of this. I can see many of you dumped against that. And it kind of gets me into a state where I go, well, if I can't get our own community to think a little bit longer term, we're never probably going to go anywhere. It just becomes kind of on, can we get enough liquidity? Can we get this wave of liquidity to crash in and just overwhelm anyone who would want to exit the project? And I think my hope here is in the lead up to migration, as the launch plans get ironed out and fully announced and circulated, we can kind of reverse some of the sentiment that I see, particularly in a few members in Sirius, where you've just experienced 2 years of the token mostly going down. And again, I think we're setting ourselves up for a world in which new demand and interest can really drive things the other way. And anyway, that's a long roundabout way of saying I think it's both an exposure problem and not being in the right places, getting to the Arbitrum ecosystem alone and being on one of their top decentralized exchanges that's really doing big co-marketing efforts. You can just see Camelot and some of the recent tokens that have launched there. They do a very good job of kind of hyping that, as well as, again, working with the Xi team to see our token listed in as many top tier exchanges as we possibly can, I think is another big thing. And then there's a third piece that I want to be transparent, especially with many of the people in this room right now, is like, it's going to come down to some of y'all thinking a little bit longer term. I'm certainly very disappointed. I had the staking versus RBW game bank withdraw sellers, and you can just see this massive spike of y'all dumping in December. And so again, it's like, all right, I get we didn't even know about this migration then, right? So there's certain things here where it's like we're all going to have to work together a bit on this one. And if I continue to see signals from the community that y'all are just done, it'll mean, okay, it'll literally come down to can I slam a wall of liquidity into this thing and buy all the tokens from, the people who are done. And that will be a big question. If we can get this community to stick a little bit closer together and maybe think a little longer term for once, that would be great. Because I was a little stunned that the stakers are not really selling RBW. It's actually everyone withdrawing it from the game bank, which continues to speak to some of the tightening measures that people complain about a lot. So I would hope that some of the people here that really care about the ecosystem, and spend a lot of time inside of it, again, start to think a little longer term, consider even providing liquidity alongside of us. And I want to try to, again, point the rewards and the incentives in such a way where it makes more sense for you to put a little bit of wrap teeth at risk to earn ARB, to earn Grail, to earn Xi, to earn these other tokens in addition to RBW that are more liquid and certainly doing very well in kind of capturing that. And I guess I'll close it out with this one thought, which is like Xi is very clearly a part of that bull run. It's doing very well as a token. And you have to ask yourself, well, what the fuck happens to the first major liquid gaming token to launch on the Xi ecosystem when we do in the coming months, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how you couldn't, after 2 years of struggling through a brutal fucking bear market, get a little excited about what the future potential looks like. So that's about all I have to say on that. It's going to be a combination of factors that will lead to success on that front. And it is going to require us, I think, to work more closely together than we have in the past in terms of the community versus the team versus the treasury versus some of the things that we are going to try to do to scale and expand the liquidity of the project as much as possible in the lead up to launch.
I don't know about you, Chow, but that gets me super duper excited. Can we include basic data trend reviews in town halls? This is feedback from an anonymous user. It would be good to see Dow trend, mint burn amounts, unicorns, bread, evoed burned, etc. at least once a month. If there's an ongoing event, it would be nice to see relevant data. It's good to have goals and keep track even if you run short and don't reach them. How you feel about that?
I think that's a great idea. In the past, we used to do I used to at least give some high level metrics.
Yeah, like Dow.
So that's something I'm certainly not opposed to and would be interested in including going forward.
Love to hear it. Okay, that is the end of all anonymous questions. Please do not submit any other new anonymous questions. I won't read them because we've reached our limit. Let's go to the Town Hall 53 questions thread. So if you have any questions, please ask them here or please raise your hand and say hello. Okay, let's have a question from Ethereal. Now that we have more resources, any plans for native CU builds for PC or mobile after Psy migration?
I'll never say no to that. We don't currently have plans. It is a thing. I'm getting certainly fatigued on all of the complaints that we see around certain things. I don't give a shit how powerful of a PC you have. You still have a web browser and it has a single thread in which everything gets processed. So it's just one of those situations where how much do we continue to invest in optimizing what we have versus going native and taking full advantage of the hardware that everybody has. That's the ironic thing. We went from being mobile developers building on basically supercomputers in your pocket to getting single thread web browser 3D shit to work. And obviously not anyway. So that there's something to that we continue to debate internally. I think the engineering team wants to take one more real stab at this because there are some benefits with people being able to just literally hit refresh and have the latest and greatest. But again, it's all wrapped up in how many RPC calls is the client making, right? Like, are we doing things that we don't need to be doing that we could be more efficient at? And so, yeah, I mean, that is really what the team is taking a step back on and very much holistically evaluating like where is our effort going to be kind of best served here. So very, 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 you know, Alden, I want to call you out here, man, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm just making the point, which is technically true, that a web browser has a single thread and everything runs through it. I'm saying you can't get a better web browser. No one can. It doesn't matter if
Pretty
I'm on my
much.
M1 Mac or you're running a potato or trying to run this on a phone. It doesn't matter. Um, Again, Venticello is a very good example of a community member who doesn't just, say shitty things and actually gives direct, actionable feedback on optimizations. I love that. I want to see more of that. If other people have suggestions, I'm all ears on that front. We're passing them directly to the team, and an investigation is actively ongoing. Again, the question, Alden, to call you out because you pissed me off, is very much, are we going to go native builds? On some level, eventually, we can only optimize to a certain extent, and we will have to go native to get performance to improve. I'm not hearing from my own engineering team that we're out of ideas on things to improve. So we are optimizing our fucking shit, to your point. Always great to have you here, Alden. Again, I just want to call out people like Venticello and others who've actually come forward and said, here are the problems, here are things that you can actually do. And I really appreciate that kind of community engagement. And Alden, I understand you're just kind of, doing your part and being yourself. And so I don't want to come off like I'm punching on you. But I really want to try to encourage community members to band the fuck together here for the next few months, because if we do not work together to maximally improve what we have from a player experience perspective, from a performance perspective, we are missing out on the biggest possible moment we've ever had as a community. And if we shit the bed on the other side of the Xi migration, I am out of ideas and we have nowhere else to go. So that's why I'm kind of making this point, obviously in a very public setting, in a place where I'm being recorded, is I just want to make this point super clear. We must come together in this moment and try to maximize it. So keep the feedback coming. Let's try to maybe back down some of the trollish or just shitty behavior, because it's hard for us to ingest feedback when it's wrapped, even if it's great. That's the thing I was telling the team the other day. Is like, so often, no matter what y'all have said, on a spectrum of just being completely reasonable all the way to being a shitty human being, most of the time y'all are right, or you have a valid piece of feedback. It's much easier for us to ingest that feedback if it doesn't come with a bunch of sass, is I guess what I'm saying. So anyway, thanks for slightly getting me cranky this morning, Alden. I love you to death. Again, let's try to maximize the fuck out of this moment. Sorry for cussing so much, Teacher Steve, when you read this, when you listen to this, but this is the moment. All I am telling the team internally is we just put up with 2 years of bear market, heart of darkness madness. I cannot tell you. I mean, shit, go back and listen to some of the town halls last year. Like, that was not fun. That was not fun for me. That was not fun for many members of the team. And we're all, again, razor focused on, we have to take every step here correctly. We cannot have a domino out of place. We must keep the momentum going, and we've got to land this. So again, it's not back to the same old shit. It's over here like, tell us the problem that you have. Send us videos. Matter of fact, I was going to say, I'm going to start throwing RBW, which will soon be CU, at anyone who gives our team good fucking videos that a client engineer or a server engineer can go, holy shit, I understand that problem, right? So anyway, I appreciate some of the hype in chat. Obviously, again, Alden, I love you to death. You're an OG. You can be a huge pain at some times, but ultimately, again, keep the feedback coming. Try to make it actionable. And that helps us. That helps us get to the root of the issue much quicker, and we can solve it. And that's what I want. I want the community and I want the team to come together. Anytime we separate out, it causes problems. It causes comms issues. It causes inefficiencies, and we don't have much time here. We really, really need to step this, to step this up. So again, I think I'm gonna get off the soapbox, Sparkly. But I want
I
everybody
mean,
hyped. I want everybody excited. This is a fucking moment. It's been a long time coming, and I think it represents the greatest opportunity we've ever had for success, certainly since the early days.
absolutely. And chat, we're not asking you to be Wag Me Moon Boys, we're just asking you to be human
Correct.
beings.
Correct. The critical feedback is the most important thing that the community provides outside of evangelism, I would say. And at times it gets a little hard to take feedback that's wrapped in a lot of, I'll just start saying sass as a nice way of putting it. But again, we talk internally a lot about this. It doesn't mean that any of y'all are wrong in the feedback. It doesn't mean any of you are wrong in the feedback. Siddhartha is another one who's been an OG for a long time. I don't see him here today. I think we're kind of off his time zone, their time zone, not Doxon. Don't know this person. But again, oftentimes the feedback comes in a way that just, again, human being to human being, you're like, whoa, that was just kind of wrapped in some sass. So anyway, to the extent we can cut through that and just give real actionable feedback to the team, they're hungry for it. They're listening to it. We're directly sharing with engineers videos and ideas for performance and quality of life and polish improvements and all this stuff. That's why I mentioned Unicorn Auto Assign. Like, people were here. You're finally getting me to go, you know what? We can probably let you auto assign your unicorns. So get ready. Andrew's going to be coming forward with that proposal. We want feedback on it. We want actionable and immediate feedback on it. We want to make sure it kind of fits people's play patterns and we can put something out there that, again, improves the experience for new and old players alike. So anyway, sorry, Sparkly. Let's. I've certainly got a few more minutes, so we don't have to cut things in two if we still have some questions. I know I've been ranting.
No, ranting is good. His character, you know? Alright, there are a lot more other questions, actually. Let's
Great.
see. JPB3 is asking, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but can we please stop with the constant nerfs at some point? It seems like jousting vouchers are getting nerfed, and are the changes to collections going to be another nerf?
Nope. Collections are just doubling the input and output, so you have less quick clicks.
Less clicks, chat.
The nerf thing, guys, it's just like, go back to December and look at what happened to our token price when we inflated, right? And again, you can see the propensity of people to take those excess tokens and just dump. And again, I tried to scale liquidity and y'all just correct that collectively, not singling anyone out, collectively. So it's just one of those things, right? The opposite end of that is a constraint of tokens going out. We have been in a period of 2 years in which we have only seen the price of our token go down. Right? If you continue to inflate in that environment, it's very bad. All right. We are all on the same page that with growth, things change and we can finally begin to see kind of the other side of that. But be careful because we can wreck growth or destroy momentum with a single tuning release. And you can believe that at this point, we've now learned from that. So I understand where you're coming from, JPB3. I always get that confused and think, did I screw up that? But it's JPB3.
It do
Has a
be.
nice ring to it. It do be. There we go. That's how I remember it. So again, it's a valid point. I need everyone to go, hey, if we are oversupplying relative to demand, we have a problem. Like setting aside price, right? It's just economics. It's basic economics. So again, we're all on the same page that we want new demand, we want to scale liquidity, and that is a good thing for kind of everyone here. And on the other side of that, you can hope to see far less nerfs and tightening measures and potentially even additional ways to earn. Now, what we're talking about doing is going in the direction of many other projects and kind of putting more and more incentives on leaderboard events and things that have that are kind of timed, that have very clear inflation schedules versus kind of the chaos of the open market that our game certainly had at launch and continues to kind of have today, where based on you guys could kind of do anything you want any day, you could dump everything you have into the RMP and exit out. And so, I mean, again, it's not an easy problem. And I've spoken with you many times, JPB3. I know you kind of get the mechanics here. Um, Collections and the release today is not a nerf at all. It just 2x's the input and output so that you have less clicks redeeming collections. Again, the focus of the release today is to adjust the effort to reward scale a bit, because it got wonky with the release of tribes. And again, there's certain mechanisms that we continue to not think through holistically, and this was a big subject of conversation with the team yesterday, particularly just the grind of workshops being driven by this leaderboard event that suddenly scaled, increased in value by 30+% or so over the weekend with the rise in value of Xi. So there's some interesting mechanics there, and again, bulk crafting coming out coupled with remember your last craft and things of that nature are really very important. So but yeah, I see what you're saying in chat there, and that's the core point. More players, less tightening. Yes, please. Like, that is the thing we should all kind of be, very, very focused on. We need to be extremely careful in the lead up to migration, because I don't anticipate getting a ton of new players because of everything on Polygon and where we're at. So anyway, be patient with us in the lead up to migration. And then again, whether it's liquidity bootstrapping event, new leaderboards that are going to be coming online, like there's going to be a lot of the play to airdrop campaign. We're trying to really put reward and incentive on, let me put it this way. We're going to put rewards and incentives and structure them in such a way that really tries to maximize and drive demand. So we're 100% in alignment there. Great question.
Thank you so much. Okay, since we're running a little over, how about we take 5 more questions? Are you good for 5 more questions?
Yep.
All right. We have a question from Bahis. With the migration coming, how are you going to be testing the new player experience and taking active feedback? First impression will be everything, I imagine.
Sorry, Sparkly. Can you ask that again? I had a investor
Yeah.
telegram come in.
No worries. With the migration coming, are you testing the new player experience, and how will you be taking active feedback? The first impression will be everything, I imagine.
Yeah, so a crux of the release prior to migration is contextual tutorials, which just allow us to set event hooks. So, for example, you might be a brand new user, and right now we kind of have a fatui, but it's very much just kind of like a couple of things you click through and then we just leave you to it. We're going to blend, I think, the best of what does work in free to play without doing one of those like hook you by the nose and drag you through a tutorial clicking buttons. Contextual tutorials give us the ability to set an event hook that fires it. So, for example, if you show up first time in the game, and you need to lock in land, there's a pop-up with a little unicorn there looking happy and some text that says, "Hey, welcome to Crypto Unicorns. You need to lock in land," and a big button that says go, and you're going to hit the go button, and it's immediately going to take you to the unlocked land tab. That'll be a deep link to that tab. You don't have to navigate to it. It takes you there. And the land button, of course, is there. If you close that out, the contextual tutorial will remain. You'll hit go, you go back. Once you've locked in land, that event hook is, finished, and that contextual tutorial goes away. And then the next hook is going to say, well, you need to build buildings. Well, what if you bought land off secondary? You already have buildings, right? Then those contextual tutorials don't fire. So it gives us kind of the best of both worlds. We have a huge set of contextual tutorials that we're planning to put forward now that the underlying system is basically being finalized and nearly in QA. It's a good idea. I'll chat with Andrew very specifically about getting the community's eyes on that, so we can give some feedback. That would be really fantastic. But it effectively will allow us to kind of guide people through. The first time you click over and go, well, what is jousting? Well, great. You're going to get a little quick jousting contextual tutorial. If you don't have unicorns or land, there can be a contextual tutorial around going to our custom marketplace to make a purchase, right? And so these are the kind of things that the underlying system is generic. We just need to design each of the event hooks that trigger this contextual tutorial, and we can chain them together to the extent that we want. So that's a huge part of how we plan to improve the new player onboarding experience. A thing with Zai that I plan to revive is our referral program. The referral program technically is set up in such a way where we can set a series of incentives, set a timeline, and allow people to refer in friends and both earn as well as put incentives on their friends. I think if we tie that to a Zai-based play to airdrop campaign, we've got a real opportunity on that side to like onboard players in a way that that works. One of the benefits of this, we talked about this yesterday, is we can actually kind of have quote unquote non-exploitable beginner quests because they would only go to people who had kind of onboarded via the referral program, and you don't get the rewards until you've kind of really completed it. And so anyone doing bad behavior would be easy to kind of screen out where there's not like a direct ability to kind of exit that. We can use the mailbox and things now that we have that officially working as a way to improve the onboarding experience. Because we very much see once people get to a certain state and have had a couple of session cycles, they really do retain. So I'm not super. I think once we have this in place, we've got a real opportunity to just iterate on it as we see data.
All right. We do have 404 requesting to speak, so let's take that. Come on up on the stage. Hey, you're muted, by the way.
Hey guys, how you
There
guys
we
doing?
go. Hey, doing great. How about you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm really excited about everything that's going on in crypto unicorns for the past couple of months now. A quick question, Aaron. The current um, leaderboards, not leaderboards. What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to ask the incentives for um, the APR and everything that's in um, staked RBW. How is that going to get transferred over to the Zai?
Oh, great question. So yeah, and I saw somebody ask this as well. So the staked contract, well, there's technically 5 contracts involved in our staking system, but all of that is going to get migrated to Arbitrum. Um, the Vault team will do that migration, just like they did the staking migration last time. They will use the Rainbow Bridge and get the conversion across. And so, um, from a player perspective, one day you're just going to go to the new staking website, which will actually be integrated directly into our website, and our web team is taking over the front end, so it will fully fit inside of our UI and branding, theming, and all that fun stuff. And basically, one day you're going to show up, and instead of the Vault Inc. site, you're going to come to the Crypto Unicorn staking site, and your RBW you staked will have already converted to CU inside of the contract. It will have the same existing time locks, and your claims will change from RBW to CU tokens. We plan to do the RBW migration kind of first, so there will be a slightly awkward moment where the staking and RBW or CU liquidity and all that is on Arbitrum, but anyone will be free to bridge over there their RBW tokens that they're kind of earning in the game and stuff. And that's, of course, pretty tight timing on migration, so it won't be a long period of time. I'll pause there, 404. Did that answer your question or any follow-ups?
Yeah. I have a couple follow-ups.
Sure.
So the single side staking, you guys are going to provide the grant money for the Zai to the LP providers, or have
Yep.
you decided to give any to the single side as well, or not?
My initial proposal is to only incentivize CU LP with Xi, Arbitrum, and Grail. And the mechanics of how that is going to work is like I'm going to migrate the RBW wrapped ETH liquidity from Polygon to Arbitrum, right? And obviously, using the Rainbow Bridge will move the RBW across. It'll become CU on the other side. I'm going to take the wrapped ETH and the CU. I'm going to pair it together and put it into the Camelot Dex pool. We will, as a result of that, earn, we being the treasury, that million in protocol and liquidity or so, is going to earn ARB and Grail incentives. I'm still working with that team to determine exactly how much of each token, so I can begin to give more concrete numbers on what APYs and stuff to expect. Again, I'm going to claim that. I'm then going to take those rewards and put them into the staking reward contract for anyone who is providing liquidity and has staked it. So I'm not actually going to stake our liquidity, the protocol and liquidity in the staking contract, and it'll just mean very high APYs for people who choose to come over and stake, because you'll be earning Xi, you'll be earning, which I will directly put in the reward contract from our monthly allocation of Xi, which begins unlocking in June. I will then put ARB and Grail, which we've earned providing our own liquidity. And then on top of that, obviously RBW. There's a separate thing we're working towards where it's very likely that crypto unicorns will get a direct Arbitrum grant. There was a brand new proposal that went forward to the Arbitrum DAO, which is a multi-$100 million in value ARB allocation specific to games. So obviously with Xi and Treasure DAO being some of the core people that put forward that proposal, we can expect to get those additional incentives. And right now, my plan is to put a huge chunk of those towards CULP providers, and then obviously towards leaderboard events and other kind of event time-based reward mechanisms.
Okay, then I just didn't know if like you were planning on doing a certain percentage, or so you're actually going to take the rewards that you get from your own, basically the grant, like what we were saying there in June, something was unlocking.
Correct. Yeah. We, as part of this Xi migration, we have been given, a day zero grant that we got prior to the token generation event for them in January. And we start getting that this June and get it, every month for, 3.5 years after that. So it's again, the Xi team has asked us not to reveal what we got while they're negotiating with other partners. Obviously, it will become known over time, but it is a massive grant. It is currently 8 figures in value.
Oh, excellent. All right, guys, just keep doing what you guys are doing, and I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, appreciate you coming up. It's good to hear from you, 404.
No problem. See you.
Thanks, 404. Have a great day. Okay, let's cap it off with one last question, then the rest of the questions we can get them answered later on through chat. Nebbiolo is asking, what are the plans after removing the jousting pass? This is going to happen in March. We were promised a jousting leaderboard some time ago.
I know for a fact the jousting pass is coming back, not today, but with that fix release in 2 weeks, that tuning just couldn't make it in for today. So that's the simple answer on that front. I do not know about a jousting leaderboard. Like right now, we're very concentrated on the live op event and the current tribes event and the lead up to migration, and then thinking about, do we run like a mini unicorn party event while we have some downtime for the game? And so anyway, that we're still crafting what the live ops cadence looks like. I can say I'm not opposed to another jousting leaderboard over time, especially if we continue to see really positive traction coming off the back of the major refactor that we released last week. So not opposed to another jousting leaderboard over time. Again, if we continue to see engagement, number of unique wallets jousting increase, and just general excitement around the new balancing changes, great. That's going to really signal to us that, hey, let's build a fun leaderboard around that, obviously with some of these new fun incentives that we have, and reward carrots that we can put. So yeah, and then again, 2 weeks from now, you're getting a new jousting battle pass.
All right. Love to hear it. Okay, so I hope that answers everybody's questions, and for other questions in the thread, we'll answer them later. That concludes our town hall. We'll post a recording of this on our socials if you'd like to give it a real listen, and don't forget to share this with your friends and fellow Unicorn fam who couldn't make it. And if you have more burning questions, feel free to reach out on our support channels, the Mod Support channel and the Ask LG Team channel. This has been Sparkly Unicorn with Stealthy and Tech, hosting co-founder and CEO Aron Beierschmitt. This isn't goodbye for now, though. Stick around for a jousting tool demo on Univu, headed by LG Jeff.
Thanks, Barkley. Thanks, all. I'll be looking out for questions over the coming days. And yes, get excited. So much on the horizon. I'm pumped. Talk soon.
All right. Talk soon.
Ooh.
Ooh. All right. LG Jeff, time to come up on the stage. Hello. You're on mute, by the way.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
We're doing great. The community is pretty pumped, especially after hearing all the news that Aron had to share at last town hall, i.e. the one that just happened right now. So can you share your screen for us so you can show us how this Univu tool works? By the way, while Jeff is setting up, a big thank you to Venticello for working with us to get this tool working. So we think that this is going to be a really big thing because if you have any values that you think would work within jousting, it's going to be a lot easier to just test it out with this tool than to just talk about it theoretically and see like the what ifs. Okay, I'm seeing the loading screen.
I am too. Let me quickly hop off and hop on because I had to change preferences. I'll be back in a second.
Gotcha. See you soon. If that doesn't work out, I will just share my screen and enter whatever Jeff wants me to enter. So have you guys taken a look? Let me just go ahead and link that. It is here on chat on Town Hall. It's udiwu.me/fight/all. Sing a song while we're waiting. Oh, trust me, you don't want to hear that. You do not want to hear that. I'm actually really excited because next week we're supposed to show up on The Office, and I think we're gonna do a karaoke night. Here's to me destroying everybody's ears. The Marmalade song. Man. Even if I spoke Russian, I don't think I'd be able to sing that. I just did not have a voice for singing. Okay, let's see. LG Jeff, come back in. Say hello. Hello.
Hello, let's hope this works this time.
If it doesn't work out, I can always just share my screen and just let me know what I should be doing.
Yeah, I think we're getting the same issue. So why don't I gave you the link. Why don't you go ahead and present?
Yeah, sure. Let me just hold on. I'm going to hide my bookmarks so chat doesn't see it and make fun of me. Bookmarks, hide the bookmarks. Boop. All right. Then I'm just going to share my screen. Hold on, chat. Okay, y'all should be able to see it now.
Perfect. So this is the wonderful tool that has really helped with the latest iteration of Joust Balance. So thanks again, Ventagel. It's been amazing to use. And I encourage you all to use this just to kind of try out some things. And as we continue to make iterations, any suggestions that you have using this tool are welcome. So before we go into stuff, I'll say when we've been using this, we've always been looking at top class as that doesn't use individual unicorns, but rather uses collective unicorns. So Sparkly, if you go to where it says base, next to battle and reset,
This one?
on the top.
On the top. Okay.
Sorry, on top of the results, go to top class.
Top class. All right.
So this is where we look at like holistically everything that happens after we go for hundreds or even like over 1,000 rounds. If you click on battle a few times, the battle button in purple a few times, you'll see how many jousting matches have been simulated. And so clicking it a few times so that we get into a couple hundred or 1,000, you start to kind of see what the results are. And so in this case, you kind of see after about 300 or so battles, Cloud and Crystal kind of are on top. Then you have Star and stuff, and as you make balancing changes on the left-hand side, we'll start to see things change there. So before we start making some changes, I'll just go through each value just to explain kind of what it does. Base damage is the the points the unicorn earns before anything else is factored in, anything in the formula. So if you want points to be higher, generally we may want to change base damage. If we want it to be lower, we would lower it. Damage shake is a kind of what makes a range from the base damage. So you have if the base damage is at 50 and the damage shake is at 5, the base damage is really 45 to 55 points. So if we want a wider variety in points earned, we'd probably increase that damage shake. The glance shift is the point penalty for when you glance. It just takes base damage minus the glance shift, which is in this case minus 25. And with the current formula, if you glance, you don't get any benefits from your unicorn's power. So that's why you're seeing such small point scores when glancing. The knock shift is the point bonus for when you knock down a unicorn. There were a lot of people noted that it seems like knockdowns were not doing as much compared with some recoveries, and an easy way for us to kind of correct that is to increase the knockdown shift. So that is something that we definitely have the ability to do. Base hit is your base chance to hit before any other things are factored in. Hit cap is how much your hit is capped by. So if your stats are able to make your unicorn hit more than 95%, it's going to be lowered to 95%. So there's always a chance to miss, even if you have amazing stats. Base staggers, the base chance the unicorn has to stagger before any stats are factored in. So in this case, it would be endurance. Base knockdown chance is the minimum chance for a unicorn to knock down another unicorn. And again, it's the base chance before the bonus knockdown chance gets applied in case you stagger. Base recovery chance. So this is the chance to recover before endurance is factored in per second of being down. So if you ignore endurance, every second there's a 3% chance you'll get up. The endurance will increase that so that so the higher your endurance, the higher that chance per second to get up is. And again, if we wanted to make it so that there's less recoveries or more recoveries, we would do a mixture of increasing or decreasing the base recovery chance and play around with a recovery factor that we'll get to down the list. Max recovery bonus. So this is how we control the points earned when a unicorn recovers from being knocked down. It's the formula we use is 1 second. Let me pull it up.
Ooh, we got formulas now, chat.
Yeah. So the recovery max bonus really rewards you from getting up earlier. So the formula is it's this number, which right now is 80, divided by the number of seconds it takes you to get up. So you get up in 1 second, you're getting a lot of points, but if you get up on the 10th second, you'd only be getting 8 points. And yeah, as the seconds go by, like the points really reduce pretty quickly. But again, going back to what we saw over the weekend, where knockdowns didn't feel as good and recoveries maybe felt too powerful. If we did a change where we increased the knock shift from 50 to like 60 or 70 and reduced recovery max bonus from like 80 to 60, I think you would see points from those two actions feel fairly different. The base burst chance is just the lowest chance all unicorns have to do a burst upon the start of the round before stats are applied. Same with base stumble. That's the base chance to stumble. The plus knock. This is the increase to knockdown when a unicorn bursts. So basically, you saw in the base knock was 6%, and then if the unicorn bursts, now it becomes 41% to knock down. And as we'll get to some of the stat-based factors below, we can start seeing where each score goes to each kind of aspect of jousting. Lastly, we have plus hit and minus hit. So if you don't stumble, you get plus 7% chance to hit. So given that base hit is currently 69%, that'd be 76% total. And then if you stumble, that'll be minus 9% to hit. So it would bring your hit chance down from 69 to 60%. So that's all the kind of baseline things that we've used to set up our current tuning. There's two other sections. So first, there's this notion of the Banger coefficient, and what this does is it takes your total stats of your unicorn and applies a bonus to certain aspects of the formula. So the Banger hit, we can make how much the total stats of your unicorn impacts your hit, your damage points, and how much you absorb based by setting these percentages. So if we want your total stats to matter more, we would increase these. But if we wanted your total stats to matter less, we would decrease these three factors. So it gives us some control there. And then finally, we have our 7 kind of score modifiers. So your damage, this damage percentage, it only factors in when you um, uh, when you stagger or you knock down, and yeah, it only factors in when you stagger or you knock down your opponent. It doesn't factor in when you glance, and it's just a bonus to points that you earn. So if you want power to matter more or to give you more points, you would increase the damage percentage. Absorb is what we use to have points taken be reduced when you get hit in jousting, and right now that's controlled by endurance. So if you wanted to increase or decrease how many points get absorbed based, you have two ways to go about it. You can lower this absorb factor, and that would reduce endurance's impact on absorb. Or you could use the banger absorb factor and increase or lower your total stats impact on absorb, or a combination of both. And then burst is how much your speed affects your chance to burst. If you want speed to matter more, you'd want to increase that number from what it is now. If you want speed to matter less, we would lower it. It's just a way to make speed more relevant with jousting. Dodge, right in this formula, hit and speed have a chance to affect your opponent's ability to dodge. Again, if you want speed and intelligence to matter more, we would increase this number and it would have a greater effect. Lowering it would lower the effect. Same thing with chance to stumble, that's intelligence and endurance. So changing that will, the higher your intelligence and endurance, the lower your chance for stumbling. So that's, you change that way. Stagger and recovery are both endurance based. So whether you want to increase or reduce endurance's impact, you could do that in those two fields. And that really is, playing around with these numbers, you could really get a lot of differences with a lot of different tuning once you run a lot of matches. Now, it's important, if you are going to play around with tuning on this, to not only click battle once, because we want to see how the tuning does over the course of hundreds or 1,000 matches. So every time I've played around with tuning with this, I always hit the battle button around 10 times or so, just to get the widespread. So currently, so Sparkly, if you want to kind of reset again and hit the battle button around 10 times, we could see kind of what the tool is currently putting out.
There you go.
Yeah, so you could see the spread being fairly even. Crystal's currently on top for sure, but we see, the class is a lot closer together in the current, tuning that, or the current tuning that we kind of have planned for the March 7th release, we are making some adjustments. We already have some adjustments in mind, which I'm going to go ahead and make and save and send to you, Sparkly, so we could just see kind of the difference. 1 second. One thing we do want to do is, we were successful in making endurance very powerful. That's one thing we definitely saw in this last in over the weekend in this last tuning. But we feel like we may have overshot it. And then there was the feeling that recovery was too powerful compared with knockdown. So those are two things that we want to address in the next tuning or in the next tuning release. If you want to, Sparkly, I'm going to send you a link with, or I don't know if it'll work this way. If I just send you the tuning I saved on the tool.
I am not sure. Is this the thing you want? Nah, I don't think this is it.
Okay, no, then
Is this it? Yeah. Can you send me a screenshot?
Sure.
All right. Okay, Alden has a question. So, I think this might be limited to 2K max individual stats. Do you feel like jousting itself, like in game with other unicorns with more than 2K max individual stats, would behave differently than in this model? Especially since we're gonna have like gems, and as we get further into the generations of unicorns, they're gonna have more and more max stats.
The formulas are such that it could handle a pretty big increase in stats. A lot of the formulas, it takes, a certain score and divides it by, 1,000, which is a pretty big kind of way to, really reduce the impact of something. So you can increase your stats quite a bit, and the actual impact would be fairly modest. So but it is a good point. We should be mindful of how stat growth happens and make sure that the tool is accommodating that. But based on the formulas that we're using, and if that hasn't been spread out or distributed, we'll go ahead and get that out, the exact formulas. We should, and we'll go and get those out. But I'm not super worried, given how we really have built these formulas. But even if stats do get out of control, again, these percentages at the bottom for how much these stats matter, we could always reduce them, and that would really reduce the impact of the stats. So same with overall stats. Again, if we find that stat growth is getting out of control and is messing up certain things in jousting, we could reduce the impact of total stats, and we could reduce the impact of an individual score by just lowering these numbers and percentages.
All right. This is the screenshot that you shared with me. Hold on. Got another one.
And I apologize again for the technical difficulties.
Oh, that's completely fine. Jank happens all the time.
Yeah, so in this case, I've increased damage shake a bit from 5 to 10 just to get a little bit more variance. Increased knock shift from 50 to 70 so that there's, you get more points for knocking down a unicorn. Reduced reduced base stagger a bit, so there's not as many knockdowns because we were seeing it pretty high. Increased base recovery from 3% to 4%. This will narrow the recovery gap between high endurance and low endurance corn. So increasing base recovery, plus if you go to the second screenshot, I've lowered the recovery bonus from endurance from I believe is at 6% to 4%. So raising base recovery from 3% to 4% will help all classes, and then lowering the recovery percent will reduce the impact of endurance on recovery. So we shouldn't see as many endurance corns recover on the first or second seconds as we did over the weekend. With the reminder that this tuning is not going to go out till not today, but the next release after this. Other things we've done is we're thinking of doing is lowering absorb from 12% to 8%. That's we're not planning to touch too many things, and we want to see how this weekend plays out, obviously, but looking at using the tool to see kind of what the impact of that would be. We see crystal still being on top, but not as much. Then heart, flower, moon candy, rainbow, star, and cloud. Again, but the band is not that terrible. Crystal aside, the band is not that terrible. You have heart at 608 wins and cloud at 554 wins. So this is not final, and again, any kind of feedback would be appreciated. But it just shows now, if you want to fix certain things that we feel like aren't working, we could identify a strategy to do so by changing a mixture of some of these factors. So I'm really excited to use this going forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing how jousting results change over time. And looking at this past weekend, we did see we saw the number of star unicorns participation as a percentage go down. It went down from 84% to 53% of all corns ran. Part of that is obviously stars were nerfed. Another part is that stars still have the higher ELO scores before this last weekend. So the reason why they're still at 53% may be because of ELO score. It also might be because they still were bred the most and have the highest total stats. We'll see what this weekend brings. But we also saw significant pretty good win rates for the classes that did participate. It ranged from 5% for stars up to 9% for crystal and candy and omnom and flower classes. So we'll see how this weekend goes. And again, be on the lookout for things that we may want to change for March 7th. And again, suggestions and feedback are welcome, and especially if you use the tool and you notice that this combination feels good based on your results. Um, uh, that's going to be helpful in informing us how we should tune for the next few releases.
All right. Yeah, that does sound exciting. By the way, chat, if you heard that the next tuning release is on March 7th, no, you didn't. These are just tentative dates.
Yes. Sorry.
We said no such
Too much
thing, chat.
talking in the office. Yes.
I really am interested in finding out, though. So, this is really great for people who want to see the results, like theoretically. Something I'm curious about is, have we tested this on live with these specific unicorns, just to see if the results of live jousting would be kind of the same with how the model shows like the wins and the losses against others.
Um. So it's very difficult to take unicorns from just one tournament and easily set up something for us to run those 1,000 times. I mean, we did that testing tool. One thing we did for 3.1, just to make sure that what we built was on par with what's here, is we did take 16 unicorns, a collection of different classes from that live. They had the unicorn IDs, and plug them in both with the tool as well as with with our back end, and ran them to make sure that the numbers, there was no real noticeable difference outside of 1 or 2%. Obviously there's always going to be some difference, and
Yeah, there's always going to be
and
variance.
and so we verified that our back end and this tool is matching. Now trying to kind of it would be very manual for us to go look at tournaments, get the unicorns, plug them in, run it, and compare the results. And so no, we have not done that.
Definitely. I think it'd
Given
be very labor intensive, yeah.
it would be, yeah, and the
It would
thing
be a
is,
funny stream, though, so hit me up if you ever decide you
well,
want to do that.
maybe, but I think the point is, as long as the the win percentages and stuff are aligned with kind of what we're seeing in the tool, we're pretty happy with that. I think any more kind of investigative analysis, again, like Sparkly said, is just time consuming, and we don't really have the labor for that at the moment.
Understandable, but would be a fun stream. So, chat, if you really want that to happen, maybe I can do something. I don't know. All right. We do have a question from Popcorn. So, what is the objective of these tunings, or for rebalancing for you? Do you want to make every kind of unicorn playable, all the time, or do you want maybe every month has a flavor of the month has a meta?
For right, in a perfect world, in the perfect balance, each class would have an equal chance. Obviously, we cannot get to that perfection. My immediate goal is to narrow the gap between classes, the best class and the worst class for jousting, so that if you really make a rock star of the worst class, it still has, a fair chance. That is the immediate goal. How we shift the meta, I mean, honestly, this is something where I'd love to get input from you guys. If we want to, if you want to shake up the meta, every month or every season or whatnot, so that different classes are on top each one. I'm totally happy to do that. I think that's part of what keeps games interesting. So that's definitely on the table. But right now it's kind of trying to get the jousting into a pretty steady state where all classes feel like they
A fair
can
chance.
exactly, yeah.
Gotcha.
If their stats are really high. I mean, this is also another thing is that we want other classes to receive the star treatment and be bred and evolved to like get high stat corns. And now with gems, that's an additional factor. That definitely is going to be important no matter what. So a part of trying to uh, make every class at least somewhat viable is that hopefully you'll get breeding of those classes, so we start seeing higher stat corns in each class and not just certain ones.
All right. Yeah, I think Chad likes that. Okay, so I think let's move towards using this tool. So let's do an example. Let's say I have only stars and I'm mad because stars aren't winning, and I think that their main thing, just like intelligence, is like it's not that well. Like before it was cool, now it's not, and I can't win at all. Like what would I change here? Like
So we have kind of, I mean, nerfed power to the point that power is really just
mhm.
for increasing your points when you either stagger or you knock down. So one thing you'd probably want to do is increase the damage percentage of from 5% to let's say 15 or 20%. Um, and then you may want to increase, because we know right now at least stars are the highest, probably have the highest total stats in general. You may want to increase, the banger hit to, from 1.2 to 1.5, or banger damage from, 0.2 to 0.5, or banger absorb from, or probably keep banger absorb at 0.2. So running that, if you make those changes, you
I think I have to reset first. Okay. So let's say I'm looking at this dude.
well, no, I'm talking about on the left hand side.
Yes.
If so, change the damage to from 5% to 20%.
Oh, here. All right.
And then you already changed the banger to 0.5.
Mhm.
And then okay, so go ahead and then click save at the bottom.
All right.
So then hit battle 10 times.
1, 2, 3. There we go.
So again, we see stars shoot up from near the bottom to near the top. Cloud, probably benefits the most from this change, but we see that because Cloud is also high power. Omnoms is pretty good with power. We see now that power is mattering more. These classes are back near the top. So again, there are ways to help kind of make any stat shine more and make total stats shine more if we want to, or downplay certain stats.
All right. And just for comparison's chat, let's reset this and let's do battle again. And there is a noticeable drop in the position of the cloud.
And Nom Nom and Star and
Yeah. There's him
Crystal's
there.
Crystal's currently the I think biggest beneficiary of the current tuning, just because of how much we've buffed defense, or not defense, endurance. we'll try to bring Crystal down a notch in the next release, but overall, before this past weekend with jousting, we were pretty happy with the spread in the tool, and the results from jousting over the weekend kind of was pretty close to the spreads we were seeing. So again, it's definitely not perfect. We almost certainly overcorrected about recovery and knockdown, and that will need to be addressed. And then there's some other factors, but very happy to see the current results and looking forward to continuing to kind of address things and make the all the classes as exactly as compatible as possible.
As viable as possible. But like, I guess with the advent of gems, like maybe you could just get any class and like slap on a relevant gem, and as long as the stats are great, like it would work out.
Well, I mean, yes and no. Obviously, any unicorn you could gems to that unicorn's just going to be better than it used to be in jousting, but
yeah,
you have to think about stats from breeding and evolving as your baseline, and the higher the baseline, especially with the gems that have the multiplicative bonuses, the more the unicorn's going to benefit from gems. So just because we have gems now doesn't mean like the breeding game is over. In some ways, it's more important just to get max utility out of the gems that you equip to the unicorn. So I'd say players should continue to try and progress their corns both through breeding and evolution and gem equipping.
all right. Okay, I think this is a fair enough like explanation of this entire system. Do you guys have any other questions, or like maybe a scenario that we can run over? Do you guys feel like any specific change would be great for testing? Actually, do you want to run over the correction that you're going to make in the next patch and see what'll happen to the lineup?
Sure. So in this case, if you scroll back up, we'll just start from the top.
All right.
Increase damage shake from 5 to 10. Increase knock shift from 50 to 70. Lower base stagger from 25 to 20. Increase base recovery from 3 to 4. Lower recovery max bonus from 80 to 70. Scroll down. Lower absorb from 12 to 8. And lower recovery from 6 to 4.
All right.
So we see there that this takes Crystal a little bit down. Although try resetting or not reset them. Oh, never mind. We'll just go with this. We want to bring Crystal down and lower endurance just slightly because we do feel it was very impactful in the last one, but without bringing Star and others back. So this is an example of tuning where we feel like we have kind of done that, although we may bring other classes to the top. And if you run this a few times, it may sometimes see Crystal on the top again, just not as much. Again, not it's we have over 2 weeks to go. There's still a lot of room to play around with this some more. And but yeah, welcome. The good thing about our system, some changes we make in the game take a long time. Like any major changes to quests, it's a lot of time for us to change the tuning. The good thing about jousting is all these variables, like if we're comfortable with the tool setting, we can get these variables into the game in basically 2 minutes in the JSON file. So so it's very easy for us to change tuning in the game once we're comfortable with it. Yeah. But yeah, I welcome any suggestions for the next tuning release. But the intent for me is nerf recovery a little bit, buff knockdowns a little bit, create a little more point variability, and then lower the impact of endurance a little bit as we feel it is very strong right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see that this changes seems to be affecting the classes a lot from the simulation. So let's see how it's going to be affecting jousting in the future. Yeah, I think that's it, chat. So this is going to be a really useful tool for when if you want to talk about stats and how they affect jousting results. Make sure to check it out. So that's uniwoo.me/fight/all, or you could just navigate by going to uniwoo.me and then clicking, what do we click? We click formula. Yes. Okay. By clicking formula. And then you now have more backing for, like, let's say you have an hypothesis and you feel like if we tune these numbers so and so, it would be better. You could just test it out here and you could say, I told you so, Jeff, or I told you so, LG. This is what the details look like. And we have numbers. Numbers are great. It helps us figure things out. Okay, if you guys don't have any other questions, I think we are good to end. Again, we are going to save this on our social, so make sure to share this with your fellow friends or Unicorn fam who couldn't make it. If you have anybody who is curious about jousting and want like the nitty gritty about it and get deep into the spreadsheet work, definitely give this a look. And we will see you all another day. Good evening and good morning, Unicorn fam. Can we get an uwu from you, Jeff?
Ooh woo.
Ooh. All right. Bye.